Welcome to all participants of today's webinar. We will be talking about the VTS Online today. I will not be talking to myself for the whole presentation. I will be joined by my colleague Christian, who will be talking a bit about practical examples from our customers, how they are using the VTS Online to give you a bit more insight about how it can be used in practice as well. Hello, Christian.
Yeah, hello and welcome everyone from my side as well.
All right, what we are going to do today is we will give you a short presentation of about 20 minutes and after that you will have the option to talk to us, to ask us questions about the VTS Online, about online testing with the Vienna test system. So feel free to collect any questions and talk to us later on. You can use both the question tool and the hand sign tool in the software, and we will unmute you later, or we will answer your written questions. So for the first 20 minutes, we are going to be talking about how to use digital tests online. Which of course is a big subject at the moment because conventional test formats require a lot of personal contact as well as more personal resources. So at the moment, it's of course important to reduce personal contact, and in general, it is a big subject to reduce personal resources, to try and make everything as efficient as possible. Which is, of course, an issue, especially when you test a very high number of people, a very large number of people, because paper pencil test and also on-site computer testing can reach their limits when testing really big numbers of people. Online tests, in comparison to that, may present many benefits. For example, if you want to test a large amount of people, as we talked about before, you will have much lower personal resources needed for that task when you test online. Also, it's location independent and can be administered globally. So if you have a really big scope and want to find the perfect candidate, for example, with online testing, it's also possible to reduce traveling costs for participants and to test all over the globe. It can be used as a simple addition to existing procedures. What I want to point out here is that online testing is not a way to replace tests at on-site, but it is a way to enhance the process. So, for example, you can use online testing at the beginning of the process to pre-select, to do a screening of the most valuable candidates, which you can then invite for on-site testing later on at a convenient time. And then online testing can also convey a very positive and modern image. If you use the digital world, if you use a modern approach, it can also be very beneficial in regards to how your company or how your practice is perceived in the eye of both applicants, but also in general. You can also reach target groups you wouldn't have reached before. I talked about it before a little bit. There's a lot lower investment for an application, for example. People don't have to travel as far. People don't have to use up too much of their time for this first step, for a first screening. This higher investment is then delayed until later on in the process, where people might be much more invested and much more interested in actually coming by for on-site testing. So this is also a big plus, because you can reach people you would not have reached with standard procedures. When online tests are created for mobile testing, you can also reach a higher level of fairness for everybody. So in this case, people can choose whichever device they might feel most comfortable using. For example, someone who uses his smartphone and his tablet 95% of the time and rarely even uses a laptop or a computer. This might be much fairer to have the option for them to use their mobile device as well. Also, it can reduce a little bit of distancing from tests because they are not used to the format. This can make tests a lot more approachable for everyone. And of course, in specific cases, there are a lot of other benefits which Christian is going to talk about with our specific customer examples now.
Yeah, thank you, Julian. As mentioned in the beginning, I would like to introduce you to 3 typical customers of ours who are already testing online. The first customer we want to have a look at is Anna. Anna is recruiting applicants for sales positions across multiple countries, for example, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway, because it's quite difficult to find suitable people for this job there. So how does a procedure look? First, she starts quite classical by checking the application forms. What she's looking for here is must-have criteria, and do applicants match these must-have criteria or requirements. For example, this could be, do they possess or have at least 5 years of working experience? From these 30 applicants, she's then testing the 25 persons who are actually matched to requirements with an online test. One of the advantages here is, as Julian mentioned earlier, that she does reduce travel costs and time effort for participants as well as for herself and her colleagues. In the online testing, she identifies the 5 best suited applicants who she invites to a telephone interview. And in this telephone interview, she further reduces the number to 3 possible applicants. And those 3 applicants are redirected to local representatives of her company for an on-site interview, or at the moment, this on-site interview could possibly be held via Skype as well, but it's possible to do it on-site or via Skype. So the test she's using is, first of all, an intelligence test int added by a personality test, the B5PS. As you can see, both tests can be done on a smartphone, but of course on a desktop PC as well. The total test duration is 43 minutes. Oh, I think there's a technical problem. Yeah, the total test duration is about 43 minutes, what is slightly under an hour. What is seen as a maximum, or an hour is seen as a maximum of an appropriate online test duration. She's taken advantage of a feature in the VTS system, namely the word report, which is automatically created and displays not only the results of the test of the participant, but also can generate interview questions based on the test results of the participant. Those word reports can, of course, be forwarded to the local representatives of her company or used by herself for the interview. The second customer we want to look at is James. James is in a different situation because he's recruiting, or hundreds of people are applying for the job he is searching people for. So that's because he's looking for positions in the industry sector. His procedure is quite the same, but it differs in a specific at a specific point. So first, he starts the same way by checking applications for must-have criteria. You see, it's a quite large number of applicants here, 300 applicants overall. He has the advantage that his company is using standardized online forms where applicants have to insert their personal information as well as working experience, what makes it a lot easier to check for must-have criteria. He then invites the 270 persons who match the requirements to an online testing. This online testing is then added by an on-site testing to which he invites the 60 most suited persons. Why another testing, you might ask yourself? That's because he's recruiting for positions where people have to do highly safety relevant tasks. So he wants to be sure that they do not only match the most important requirements, but he wants to have a more holistic overview about abilities, skills, and personality traits of the persons he's recruiting. He then invites around about a third of those 60 people to an on-site interview in which he identifies the 8 most suited persons again and invites them to a trial employment. If we look at the tests James is using, we can see that he's also using the intelligence test INT, combined with a concentration test, the so-called DUCT, and a slightly different personality test, the BFSI, which allows him to also test in about 40 to 45 minutes in the online testing. And he takes advantage of another feature in the Vienna test system, namely the ranking profile, which you can see in the lower right corner here. The ranking profile allows to rank all applicants and compare them in a quite handy way to see which of those match the requirements best. Then let's have a look at our third customer, Maria. Maria is in another situation. She's not recruiting, but rather is she offering counseling for burnout clients. So usually, of course, this is a lot of personal face-to-face communication, but in the current situation, this is quite difficult to set up, so she implemented a new procedure. The procedure starts by a usual initial conversation where she talks first to the customer or potential clients. This is followed by the actual exploration. To do this, she makes an appointment in initial conversation for a Skype call. After the Skype call, she's doing an online testing. For this online testing, she's using our test AVEN, which is measuring working behavior and lasts about 30 minutes. And as you can see here in the right lower corner, the results are also shown in a graphical overview. So she's using this graphical overview in the Skype feedback talk, which takes place after the online testing, and shares her desktop screen to go through the results with the client. Then after this, she's continuing to do the counseling via phone, Skype, or even WhatsApp until she's able to do personal face-to-face sessions again.
Perfect. Thank you for this overview. I want to pick up all of these practical examples and give you another quick overview of which tests are available in general for online testing in the Vienna test system, which is on one hand the personality tests, some of which we already talked about. Then there's also, of course, special ability tests, as well as intelligence tests for online testing. Good, so now you got a quick overview about how this can be used, and you get some very nice specific use cases from our customers. Now the next question is probably how to set this up. How does this work? I can assure you that it's very easy to set all of this up if you just follow these next steps I'm going to talk about. To test someone online, as a first step, you have to define a test battery. To do this, you may already know this, you go to the settings and then to test batteries, create a new test battery, give it an appropriate name, and then add whichever tests you want to administer online. You have to do this if you want to use a single test, but you can also put in a whole test battery of suitable tests for online testing in here. When you've done this, the next step is to input the person data with a few additional fields to what you're used to in order to test online. So you go to the Persons tab, you click New, or you edit one of your previous persons, and then you add the standard information at the top. And after that, you have to also add the test battery for direct testing you just set up. You have to add an email address. Here you put in the email address of the person you want to test. So usually you send out automated links directly to the persons. What I did in this case is I added my own email address. This can be useful to just set up all of the persons you want to test online, send the links to yourself, and then copy paste them to email template you want to send out with specific information about the procedure. Next step is to also enter an email address for the result. This is the address where the test results are sent automatically as soon as the tests are finished. And here you can use your own email address. You can use the email address of whichever person should be interpreting the results, or you can also automatically send out a report, for example, to the person who has been tested. After that, you will also have to define which language the results should be created in. And you have to choose a scoring method. In this case, the individual scoring is chosen. And the individual scoring is just the scoring you're used to from the Vienna test system, from the test results for each test. You can also choose a report here or a tested scoring. Report could be, for example, if you want to send out the results directly to the person, you can choose the sales report and the candidate report here. Last but not least, you will have to set up a password to protect the results. There you have to choose capital letters and small letters as well as numbers here to be in accordance with the GDPR guidelines for data security. Good. Now we're done with adding all the necessary fields. Then, of course, you have to make sure you save the changes, and we're already done. And you can click web testing and start the generation of the links. What pops up after that is a quick window where you can input the sender's email address. So the email address that should appear as the sender of the email that's sent out to the participants. It's important to use a sensible email address here, because if someone has a question and directly answers the sent out link, the answers will be sent to this email address. Also, the sender's name is input here. Here you can put your company name or the name of the practice or your own name. And done. After that, you will receive a quick status report on your outgoing emails. Here you can see everything worked out fine. The invitations have been sent out successfully, and after that you will get a list of email addresses that the online test has been sent to. If you have missed any of the previous fields, of the fields we talked about before, or if you've chosen unavailable test for online testing, for example, you will get a notification here that the generation of the link wasn't successful, and then you can adapt your fields or your test sequence and try again. So that's that. Now you know how it looks like for the administrator, and you've seen all of the steps you have to follow, and you've seen that it's actually quite easy to set up all of this. Now it's also interesting, how does it look like from the other side, from the point of view of the person you want to test. Invitations can be sent out directly from the VTS. As you've seen before, if you put in the participant's email address, they will receive this email with a short explanation about recommendations, where to test or where to conduct the test, what devices can be used, that you should use the latest version of your browser, and then of course the link to the test. If you want to do the other option I talked about before, the one where you customize it, you can send out all of these links to yourself and then add them to a predefined template where you write your own information about your process. The test can be started with this small link you've seen in the email address, and if you click on the link, the test starts automatically. It also goes to full screen mode, so people can do other things on the same screen. And it looks very similar to the VTS surface with all of the necessary buttons. Here you see an example from the BFSI. Good. So this is what it looks like for the participant. Of course, some of the tests can also not only be presented on PC or on the laptop, but also on mobile devices. Our prime example for mobile testing is, of course, the INT, which has been developed mobile first and is works very well on all mobile devices, such as tablets and smartphones, but also on a laptop or on the PC. Another example for a test that works very well with mobile devices is the BFSI. When all of the testing is done, when the participant went through all of the questions, accessing the test results afterwards is also very easy and flexible. As soon as the participant is done testing, the results will appear in the results tab within the VTS. So just as you know, and as per usual in the Vienna test system, the test results will show up in the test results tab, and you can just show them in with any scoring method you want to choose. The other option that also is available is to open the PDF that's automatically sent out to the defined email address. When you've set that up, you will receive this email with an attachment with the test results that is secured with the password you've chosen in the administration software. Last but not least, there's also a third option that can be set up. Here you can add a download button in the end of the test, where the test person can directly download a report, for example, the candidate report, or they can put in their email address and will be sent these results. Now that we are done testing, I want to give you a quick overview of what options do you have to set all of this up. Of course, if you have your own server and you have the ability to set all of that up with your customer consultant, then that will work fine. But also, if you don't have a server handy for online testing, Schufried can provide you with a possible solution. There is the option that you use your local PC or laptop, you connect it to the Schufried cloud, and then from here you use the Schufried cloud and send out links to the test persons you want to test. Then the results come back, are saved in the cloud, and can be accessed only with your laptop in your individual database. So this is always an option you can talk about with your customer consultant or with your partner consultant. Good. So these are the main topics we wanted to talk to you about today. As you can see, online testing offers many benefits for you, especially with the Vienna test system, of course. You can test people on whichever device they prefer in many cases. You can reduce costs and efforts, and you can also test people independently from their current location. Thank you very much for participating.